The house was a quiet rebellion. At 33, I'd always been the responsible one, the anchor for my sisters Jess and Maya. While they chased dreams and chaos, I built a foundation, saving, working, planning. The house on Sycamore Lane was my promise to myself stability, a place that was mine alone. I loved my sisters, but I carried the weight of our parents' expectations. Look after your sisters. I kept my ownership secret, inventing a landlord named Mr. Henderson, to avoid shifting our dynamic. For 6 months, I lived there alone, learning the house's quirks and savoring solitude. It was my one selfish act, a sanctuary just for me. But soon, out of love and duty, I would decide to share it. When the world shut down in 2020, the silence was deafening. Cities that never slept were suddenly still, and the bustling energy of everyday life evaporated overnight. Businesses shuttered their doors, their windows displaying handwritten signs announcing temporary closures that, for many, became permanent. The vibrant tapestry of human interaction was replaced by an eerie emptiness, a stark reminder of the unprecedented crisis unfolding. My sisters' lives unraveled with frightening speed. The pandemic didn't just disrupt routines, it shattered livelihoods and destabilized futures, leaving a trail of anxiety and uncertainty in its wake. The foundations they had carefully built began to crumble, threatening to pull them under. Jess, a talented freelance graphic designer, lost her gigs almost immediately. Projects were canceled, contracts were terminated, and the phone stopped ringing. The creative well seemed to dry up as the world grappled with more pressing concerns than branding and marketing. The uncertainty of her income became a constant source of stress. Maya's job in the hospitality industry was cut without warning, a casualty of the widespread closures. And to add insult to injury, her lease ended at the same time, leaving her with no income and no place to live. The double blow left her reeling, desperately searching for solutions in a world that seemed to offer none. Their calls for help became daily, filled with a mixture of fear, frustration, and a growing sense of desperation. Each conversation was a stark reminder of their vulnerability and the precariousness of their situation. I could hear the weight of their worries in their voices, a burden that I felt compelled to share, and I knew what I had to do. There was no question in my mind. Family comes first. I had a home, space, and a responsibility to help them weather this storm. The decision was immediate, driven by a deep sense of love and obligation. Of course, I said, there's plenty of room. My home would become their sanctuary, a safe haven from the chaos and uncertainty raging outside. I wanted to offer them not just shelter, but also a sense of security and belonging during a time when everything else felt so fragile. The rent is cheap, and Mr. Henderson is fine with it. A little white lie to ease their minds. The truth was, Mr. Henderson didn't exist. I owned the house outright, but I didn't want them to feel like they were a burden. I wanted them to feel like they were contributing, even if it was just a small amount. Their arrival brought relief and chaos, a whirlwind of emotions and belongings that transformed my quiet home into a bustling hub of activity. The air crackled with a mix of excitement and apprehension as they unloaded their lives from the moving truck, boxes overflowing with memories, clothes, and the remnants of their former lives. Each box represented a chapter closed, a challenge overcome, and a hope for a brighter future. Hugs and gratitude. The embraces were tight, filled with unspoken words of appreciation and a shared understanding of the sacrifices we were all making. It was a powerful reminder of the unbreakable bond that held us together. Jess claimed the attic for her art, transforming the dusty, forgotten space into a vibrant studio filled with canvases, paints, and the promise of new creations. It became her sanctuary within a sanctuary, a place where she could escape the anxieties of the world and express herself through her art. Maya took the garden room, drawn to its sunlit windows and the tranquil view of the blooming flowers outside. It was a peaceful oasis where she could reflect, recharge, and begin to rebuild her life, one seed of hope at a time. We cooked, experimenting with new recipes and rediscovering old favorites, the kitchen filled with laughter and the comforting aroma of home-cooked meals. Watched movies, huddled together on the couch, seeking solace in familiar stories and shared moments of entertainment, and tried to forget the world outside, creating a bubble of normalcy and connection within the walls of our home. We found strength in each other's company, a reminder that we were not alone in facing these unprecedented challenges. But the lie about Mr. Henderson grew heavier with each passing day, a constant weight on my conscience. The longer I kept up the charade, the more difficult it became to maintain. When Maya wanted to thank him for his generosity, I made excuses, deflecting her attempts to connect with our fictitious landlord. The awkwardness grew with each evasion, a subtle tension simmering beneath the surface of our newfound harmony. I handled repairs myself, determined to keep Mr. Henderson a figment of our imagination. Every leaky faucet and squeaky door became another opportunity to reinforce the lie. Paid bills online and kept up the charade, meticulously managing the finances to ensure that my sisters never suspected the truth. The responsibility weighed heavily on my shoulders, a secret burden that threatened to unravel the fragile peace we had created. Each small deception chipped away at my peace, eroding my sense of integrity and leaving me feeling increasingly isolated. I knew that the truth would eventually have to come out, but I dreaded the potential consequences. As months passed, the house became a commune. Ben, Jess's friend, needed a place. So did Sarah, Maya's colleague. I checked with Mr. Henderson, and soon 5 adults filled the house. The quiet sanctuary became a hub of activity music, mess, and Zoom calls. I retreated to my room, overwhelmed by the noise and responsibility. I became the unofficial manager chore wheels, reminders, and conflict mediator. Despite the chaos, we formed a bond celebrating wins, comforting losses. But I felt separate, holding a secret that set me apart. I was the architect of this family, but also its silent janitor. The house was full, but I was lonelier than ever. My secret was a wall between us. The secret unraveled on a hot summer day, not with a confession, but a piece of mail. A property tax notice addressed to me landed in the mail pile. Ben, sorting through the stack, noticed my name and grew suspicious. He mentioned it to Jess, who shrugged it off, but doubt took root. Jess told Maya, who started connecting the dots. Repairs, rent, the elusive landlord. The pieces clicked into place. That evening, they gathered in the living room, the envelope on the table. The music stopped. Laughter faded. They waited for me, the air thick with suspicion. I came downstairs, unaware, into a storm of silence. The truth was about to break open. The house held its breath. The air was thick with unspoken tension as I walked into the living room. I could feel it the moment I stepped through the doorway. Something was terribly wrong. It felt like walking into a carefully laid trap, a meticulously planned confrontation. My sisters and friends were all there, their faces grim and unreadable. The atmosphere was heavy, suffocating. On the coffee table lay a stack of tax documents, casting a long shadow over the room and the already strained expressions of everyone present. It was clear this wasn't a casual get-together. The silence stretched, taut and uncomfortable before Jess finally broke it, her voice sharp and laced with suspicion. "So, Clara," she began, her eyes fixed on me, "who is Mr. Henderson really? And what exactly is your relationship with him?" Maya's voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes welling up with tears. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. "You own this house, don't you? All this time you've been the owner. You lied to us. You let us believe something that wasn't true." The room erupted. Accusations flew like poisoned darts, profiting off friends, holding power over them, betraying their trust in the most fundamental way. The air crackled with anger and disbelief. I desperately tried to explain, my voice rising in panic. "I did it to help you. I wanted to protect you all. I thought it was the best way. I didn't want things to be weird between us. I didn't want to create any kind of imbalance or awkwardness." My words tumbled out, a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. But my intentions, however well-meaning, didn't matter anymore. The secret, once revealed, had irrevocably tainted everything. The foundation of our friendship, built on trust and honesty, had crumbled. Jess's words cut the deepest, sharp and unforgiving. "You made us tenants without our consent, Clara. You stripped us of our agency. That's worse than just lying." The room fell silent once more, but this time it was a heavy, oppressive silence, filled with unspoken resentment and hurt. The distance between us felt vast, unbridgeable. We were no longer a close-knit group of friends, but strangers separated by a wall of betrayal. My good intentions, twisted and misunderstood, had become a prison, trapping me in a web of my own making. I was isolated, alone, and facing the consequences of my actions. I saw the hurt reflected in their eyes, the pain I had inflicted on those I cared about most, and my heart ached with remorse. The weight of my deception pressed down on me, crushing my spirit. The truth was finally out in the open, exposed for all to see, but the damage was already done, irreparable. I was no longer just their sister, their friend, their confidant. I was the one who lied, the one who betrayed their trust, and I didn't know how to fix it. In the aftermath, resentment and regret warred inside me. I'd opened my home, carried the burdens, and now I was the villain. But I saw their pain. My lie had broken their trust. They thought we were equals, but I'd held all the power. My need to protect had become control. I realized my intentions didn't erase the impact of my choices. I'd tried to keep things simple, but my secret had made everything worse. I'd lost the connection I was desperate to protect. The house grew silent, tension thick. Ben and Sarah decided to move out. It's just too weird now. Their departure left empty rooms and a broken dynamic. With my sisters, things were harder. Maya tried to bridge the gap. Jess stayed distant, her pride wounded. The bond between us felt shattered. I called a meeting. I should have been honest. From now on, full transparency. I laid out the real costs, proposed a fair rental agreement. Maya agreed, relieved. Jess resisted, but after a hard talk, she signed. The process was awkward but necessary. We were rebuilding, brick by honest brick. The innocence was gone, but maybe something stronger could grow. The house was no longer a secret, but it wasn't yet a home again. Trust didn't return overnight. It was a gradual process, a delicate dance of rebuilding what had been broken. The silence in the house was heavy, a constant reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. Each interaction felt strained, each word carefully chosen, as if we were walking on eggshells, afraid to shatter the fragile peace we were trying to create. The new agreements brought structure, a framework for moving forward, but not instant healing. They were a necessary step, a way to ensure transparency and fairness, but they couldn't erase the years of resentment and hurt. The wounds were deep, and they needed time to heal, to scab over and eventually fade into scars. I focused on openness, on creating an environment where we could all feel safe to express our thoughts and feelings, even if they were difficult or uncomfortable. Showing invoices, asking for input, ending the era of secrets that had poisoned our relationships for so long, I wanted to tear down the walls of mistrust and build bridges of understanding. Maya was first to thaw, her heart more readily open to the possibility of reconciliation. She seemed to sense my genuine efforts to make amends, to right the wrongs of the past, joining me in the garden, a shared space of growth and renewal. You saved me, you know. Her words were a balm to my soul, a validation of my efforts. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start, a crack in the ice that had encased our hearts. It was a glimmer of hope, a sign that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. We talked for hours, often late into the night, reconnecting as sisters, sharing memories, and tentatively exploring the present. We spoke of our dreams, our fears, and our hopes for the future. Jess took longer, her wounds were deeper, her defenses stronger. Her anger tangled with her own struggles, her own insecurities, and her own sense of betrayal. She carried a heavy burden, and it weighed her down, making it difficult for her to let go of the past. When she landed a big commission, a validation of her talent and hard work, she finally opened up, the dam of emotions breaking. I was angry at myself, not just you. Her vulnerability was disarming, her honesty refreshing. She admitted the house's stability, the security it provided, had helped her pursue her art, allowing her to focus on her passion without the constant worry of financial instability. I listened, compassionately, understanding her pain, and forgave their harsh words, recognizing that they were born out of fear and hurt. We found a new rhythm, a way of being together that was more balanced, more respectful, and more understanding. Quieter, more mature, less volatile, but real, authentic, and genuine. Laughter returned, slowly at first, hesitant and uncertain, then freely, easily, and joyfully. The warmth was back, radiating through the house, and the house felt alive again, filled with the energy of love, connection, and forgiveness. Forgiveness was slow, a winding path with many obstacles, but it came, eventually blossoming into a new chapter of our lives. The house on Sycamore Lane cost me more than money, it cost me my naivete. I learned that generosity, mixed with secrets, becomes a dangerous currency. My desire to protect created deeper obligations and isolation. Honesty would have been hard, but less damaging than the easy lie. The secret, meant to preserve equality, only built walls. Now, home means trust and honesty, not just bricks and solitude. The house is still mine, but its meaning is shared, marked by mistakes and growth. Boundaries aren't walls, but fences for clarity. The price was high, but as I watched my sisters in the garden, I felt peace. The house was no longer a secret. For the first time, it truly felt like home.